everyone, welcome back to Gardening Through the Week. I'm your host, Katie Askelson, the Lakeland District Executive. In today's video, we're going to learn how to make a raised garden bed. Now, you don't have to make a raised garden bed to have a good garden, but we're going to go through some of the pros and cons of having a raised garden bed. One of the pros is manageability. Having a raised bed allows us to have a manageable way to garden in a smaller space. So this is great for schools or if you don't have a huge backyard. Raised garden beds also help with the prevention of soil compaction and plant damage. One of the greatest advantages of a raised bed comes from the protection the structure provides from foot traffic, especially from children working in the garden area. Since people work on the paths and don't walk in the well-designed raised beds, the soil doesn't get compacted and plants are less likely to be damaged. This also allows for a longer growing season. Raised beds warm up more quickly in the spring and they also drain better. And this allows for this growing season to be longer and for there to be better growing conditions. Once the soil in the raised beds is stabilized, compaction is almost non-existent. So the need for seasonal tilling is actually really minimal. Raised beds also allow for there to be better drainage. A well-repaired raised bed allows for the soil to drain better than it would in an in-ground garden. And this is really important since we live in Iowa, which gets quite a bit of rain. There's also easier soil amendments. A raised bed can help enable crop growth in an area that would otherwise not support gardening, such as steep slopes. Raised beds can also act as a form of terracing. And what's neat is that they can be built on parking lots and really any other difficult to garden urban soils. Raised beds also allow for material conservation. Because gardening is space concentrated, the management of water, fertilizer, mulch, and soil amendments can be more carefully controlled, leading to there being less waste. These raised beds are also great for gardeners who are differently abled. If they're at the proper height, they can improve access to wheelchairs or for gardeners who have a hard time bending over. Lastly, it reduces conflict. In gardens where plots are leased per year, raised beds can have clearly defined boundaries and reduce inadvertent trampling. Now, before you start a garden, it's really important to think if you want to have a raised bed or an in-ground bed. And really just thinking about how long you're going to be in that location and if you want to have a more permanent structure like you would get with a raised bed, or if you want something that you can move around like a in-ground bed. Now, before we do anything to build a raised bed, we want to make sure that we're being safe. We want to make sure that we are having an adult be with us and helping us with any power tools, especially since what you're going to be seeing today is we're using some saws and some drills. Now, I recommend that you go ahead and get your wood sawed at a Home Depot or wherever you're buying your wood from prior to making your bed. That way it's done really precisely and it'll be done a lot safer. If you do know someone who has a good saw to cut your wood for you, you can also do it that way. But if you're a little bit younger, you might not want to be cutting that wood yourself. Before we use the drill, we want to make sure that we are treating all of our tools with absolute respect. We don't want to be horsing around and we don't want to be doing anything silly when we're using these power tools. These tools, although really cool and a lot of fun to use, can also be really dangerous and we don't want to get hurt when we're making our project.
This is the kit that we use to build our raised bed. Now you can either use a kit to build it or you can just buy 4 2x4s. Really, the sky is the limit on how you want to build your raised bed, but this is what we used. This kit is a little bit more complicated because we had to cut our wood to certain lengths and how it's built is a little bit more complicated, but you can make it as complicated or as easy as you want to. Before we cut any of the wood, we made sure to measure it and to mark where we were going to cut it. For most of these pieces, we actually ended up using a miter saw, and that worked really well. It cuts all the way through and you can make sure that it's really precise. So I recommend if you know someone who has one of these saws to use this to be able to cut. Also noticing that both Greg and Richie, who are cutting the wood, both have glasses on. This is going to help protect their eyes from any sawdust that comes up. You want to make sure that you are being really safe and careful whenever you're using any type of power tool, especially this saw. In total, we ended up cutting 16 pieces of wood. The last 2 pieces we actually cut with 2 different saws, which you will see in just a little bit. next saw that we use is a reciprocating saw. And as you can see, Richie had to hold the piece of wood down just to make it stable. Really a big aspect of building these raised beds is using teamwork. So as you can see, Greg is taking a little bit more time to cut the wood with a reciprocating saw, so it doesn't make quite as clean of a cut that the miter saw does. So the miter saw might be a better option to go with. The next saw you're going to see us use is a circular saw. So a circular saw will cut really cleanly, but it does not cut all the way through, so you have to do 2 passes of the saw in order to cut the wood off. Alright, now we are going to set everything up prior to actually putting it together. We ended up making a little bit of a mistake, but we ended up fixing it. With the type of screws that we used for this project, they were actually really long and acted like a drill along with a screw, so we did not have to drill holes prior to having to put the screws in. Typically, you will have to drill a hole first and then you'll have to put a screw in afterwards, but because of what these types of screws were, we did not need to do that. As we continue to build this one, you can see that we are having to stack it. So how the wood is cut, you can see that there's a little bit of a taper, and that taper allows us to screw the top board into the bottom board. That way they are connected. And what we would do is we would connect them at the corners, and we would also go about 3 inches back and connect them there as well. That way we could strengthen it. And here is our finished raised bed. We are really proud about how this turned out, and let us know if you build a raised bed for your garden. Alright guys, see you next week.